Hey, Shep here at Iron Anchor Cycles, and we're back with, you guessed it, another 2022 Road Glide ST here on the workbench to do some really cool stuff with. So, as we mentioned in the last video we did on one of these are kind of the newest, coolest thing that Harley's got out right now. Obviously the Lowrider ST being the most exciting of the new models, but the ST Bagger is pretty cool as well. This one, we're doing a whole bunch of really great stuff too, so figured we'd come back with another video and show you some of the really awesome upgrades we're gonna do on this. So this particular customer, just like the last one, hopefully you can see here, brought this bike to us basically right from the dealership. I think this one's got about 30 miles on it, which is roughly about how far we are from the dealership. So totally bone stock. Not a thing's been done to this one yet, and so we're excited to be the first ones to be able to kind of put some wrenches to this and get it looking and riding the way that it should. So this customer's got a whole lot of stuff planned, and we're gonna try to cover all of it in the video today. Probably this will be over a couple of different phases that we do some work here, but we'll stitch it all together and hopefully make one, maybe two pretty seamless videos here. So I'll talk a little bit about what we're gonna do, and first I'll give you a disclaimer. Probably not gonna be a how-to this time around. Just about everything that we're gonna do on this bike, I think we've done in sort of bits and pieces in other bikes. So if you're looking for more in-depth installation instructions or how-to or any of that kind of stuff, check out some of our other videos. In this case, we're just gonna show you taking this Road Glide ST from stock to, well, definitely not stock. So basically where we're gonna start is some of the first and most obvious things that these bikes need, and that's gonna be ditching the wheelbarrow handlebars and getting a Kraus Wolf 1 and Road Glide Pro kit put on there. So we're gonna do the top triple tree, the risers, the gauge relocation, as well as a set of moto bars. In addition to that, while we've got the front end apart, we're gonna do a set of Öhlins cartridges, and we are gonna match that with a set of Öhlins remote reservoir shocks for the rear. So that's gonna take care of our handling and suspension. While we've got this bike up here on the lift and taken apart, we're also gonna do a Rockford Fosgate Stage 3 kit, which is gonna include front speakers and an amp, as well as saddlebag speakers. We are also going to tackle a couple of other little things. This bike definitely needs a seat and a few other things. And then the last part of this is gonna be, we're gonna deal with some of the other foot control stuff, and we're gonna do a complete Thrashin supply setup with their Apex footboards, brake arm, shifter linkage, or sorry, shifter arms, and all that stuff. So we'll cover all that in this video, and then we're also gonna be doing a little bit of engine modification and definitely a pipe for this bike, but we're probably not gonna get to that in this video just because those parts are gonna be a bit of a wait to do. So we're gonna do everything we can now, and then we'll probably have the customer pick up his bike, be able to ride it, and then when that pipe comes in, we'll come back and do that then, maybe do another video on it. But for now, I think this is just gonna be a really, really great video to be able to show you guys doing some cool stuff on this. We're gonna go quick, just kind of show you a couple points along the way, and you can see this come together. As always, if you've got any questions, you can give us a call or shoot us an email. And any of the parts that you see that we're doing on this, that we sell, they'll be in the link in the bottom of the video in the description. So check that out if you're interested in more info on any of that. But otherwise, stay tuned and we'll get this bike sorted. All right, so just like that, we've got our bike pretty well stripped down here. Actually, hopefully you can probably see in the corner here, we've actually got the new Öhlins remote reservoir shocks started to go on already. We've got to do the mounts and all that, but we're gonna come back to it. Really just wanted to start with what we got going on up here. So hopefully you can see we did a pretty total disassembly, including the tank, the bars, risers, gauges, all that's off. Got our front wheel, got our forks off, all that stuff, everything's out of the way. Obviously, for some of these things, you wouldn't need to necessarily disassemble the bike this far, but we got a bunch of stuff we're gonna do. So just wanted to go ahead and just do a full tear down so we've got as much space to work with as we might need. So from here, our next step is we're gonna start to look at the front end. We're gonna do the inserts from Öhlins, the FKS 228 cartridges. We'll get those put in the forks, and we'll get those fork legs put back in. And then we'll start focusing on the top triple tree that we got from Kraus, as well as the risers and bar setup. We've also got the tank off because we got to run power for the new amp from Rockford Fosgate, as well as the rear speaker wiring that's going to go back to the saddlebags. So just wanted to quickly check in and kind of show you a little bit of disassembly. Let's touch base when we get some new parts together, and we'll see how this bike starts to look. All right, so just checking in here. We've got our rear shocks on, mounted up with our brackets installed, and we've got our front fork legs back in place here with the Öhlins cartridges installed there as well. Got our top triple tree just loose for the moment. We're gonna be replacing that with Kraus one in a later step here. We got the lower tree tight to hold those in place and keep them even. One thing I wanna point out with regards to how these mount in terms of getting them on the bike. Basically, there's a, I don't know how to say this. This is a new part from Öhlins. They designed it to work with, basically, I'm gonna show you this instruction sheet from Harley, okay? So this is the spacer that would come before you have 4-point docking hardware installed in your bike. So on earlier baggers, and I don't mean pre-2014, I mean 14 and up baggers, this is on the bike, bolted in place, and you'd replace it if you install the docking hardware kit with this. The challenge with this particular bike, and I haven't had enough time to research any more than this, whether this is an issue for 2022s or if this is specific to the ST models, that with that, before you put the docking hardware on, this part is not on, sorry, focus. This part right here, there we go. This part here is not on this model. What this came with was just a rubber grommet filling that hole without this piece behind it that the bolts run through. Why I mention all of that is because the spacers that come with your Öhlins bracket are designed to work with either the docking hardware or this part behind it. If you don't have one of those two things, the spacer is not gonna be long enough. So you'll wind up not being able to put the bracket on. So if you've got a 2022 or an ST or whichever, doesn't come with one of these two things, you're gonna have to take those little rubber grommets out, and you're gonna either have to go and buy these plastic spacers from the dealership or just go and get the 4-point docking hardware. So obviously, I think you can see it here on the video, our customer here just said, yeah, I don't want to spend money on a stupid plastic piece, just put the docking hardware on so I can run a sissy bar. So that's what we did. Everything's all mounted up, good to go. So I just figured I'd throw that out there in case anybody runs into that issue trying to install these new Öhlins brackets on a very, very new bike, 2022 or an ST or whatever. So all that said, what I'm gonna do now is skip over and we're gonna do our foot controls. I think I mentioned we're doing all that stuff from Thrashin. We've got apex boards, a brake lever, shift arms, all that stuff to go on. So I'm gonna throw that stuff on and then I'll show you how all that comes out. We haven't actually done a video on this particular setup before, so I'm actually gonna record all of that and I'm gonna cut it out and I'm gonna put it in another video to not make it be too long here. So if you're interested in seeing how all that stuff goes on, check out the other video that we're gonna post on the foot control install from Thrashin. So we're gonna do that now and we'll check back in. All right, so we've got our foot controls installed. Obviously right side is over here. Apex boards, brake arm, brake pad. These mounts are from Ciro. We'll include a link for that. It's a frame-mounted highway peg mount, if that makes sense. So rather than going onto your crash bar, you can come onto the frame here and it replaces your front footboard mount. And you can add on whatever highway peg you want to add. In this case, we went with a set of slim P54s to match what we did on the passenger pegs on the back. As I should mention, I guess we also did the passenger pegs. Let's take a look at that. Just pick this up. All right, so here's our passenger pegs. That's the P54, along with mount we added because the ST does not come with rear peg mounts. And then let's walk around to the other side. And we can see here matching Apex footboard, same mount, P54 peg. And you've got your shifter peg, outer lever here, OE shaft, Thrashin inner. Then we still have the original linkage on here. As I mentioned, we're waiting for a part for that. So when that arrives, we'll swap that out. But that is the foot controls for right now. Let's see if we get a little better look there. Yeah, it looks pretty good, I think. Both the shifter arm and the brake arm are the shorter of the two options from Thrashin, so they match the smaller footboards really well. So at this point, what we're gonna do, as long as we have everything tank and seat and side covers all off, we're gonna move on to installing the Rockford Fosgate stereo. So we're doing the saddlebag lid speakers along with the fairing speakers and the amps. So we'll get all that stuff put in and wired, and then we'll finish off with doing the bars, and we'll get the front wheel put back on, and we'll get this thing back on the ground. All right, so here it is. After we finished getting the stereo done, which I think was our next step where we left off, we went ahead and got the bars put on. The Kraus setup we've done so many times before, and we've got our foot controls and all that stuff on as well. And that was obviously in addition to the shocks we did in the back. So all in all, this bike is just about done. We've got some more parts to go on for our customer, things that we're waiting on. Obviously, we still got a stock exhaust pipe in here. We haven't done our transmission top cover yet. We've got a seat coming for him. So a few other details that need to get ironed out, and obviously get the bike on the dyno once we change out the pipe and do a little bit more work there. But otherwise, this bike's ready to roll. So our customer's gonna come and get this bike and go take it for a ride, and I gotta tell you, he's definitely gonna dig it. If you've never ridden a bag or road glide in particular with a set of T-bars on it, particularly the Kraus ones with the pullback, it's a whole nother world, whole nother experience. So if you haven't tried one, you definitely should. So what I'm gonna do is take this bike down, we're gonna put it on the ground. I will show you, like I did on the last one of these we did, kind of what the riding position looks like. This set is a little bit different than the setup we did on the last one of these. I think the last video we did with one of these, it was 14-inch bars, these are 12, and I don't think we used the Raptor pullback plate the last time, but we did this time. So I think I can give you sort of my info when I get on the bike, and you'll sort of see what that size looks like compared to me, to give you a reference point. So we'll do that now, we'll get it on the ground, and we'll wrap this up. All right, so here's the bike on the ground, obviously me on it. As I mentioned in the last video, I'm about 6'1". So this particular setup is the Kraus top triple tree, the Raptor pullback plate, which is 2 inches, your 8-inch riser, and then the 2-inch bar, and that bar is the Flymoto bar. So all in 12 inches, and then you also have a kickback riser plus the Raptor pullback plate moving the bars back. So this is that setup. So hopefully, see what that angle looks like just so you can kind of get it directly side on. It's a really nice position. I mean, for me personally, I'd probably go a little bit higher. I'm kind of tall, this customer's a little shorter. But one thing that is for sure is that with this pullback plate, there's plenty of room in here for your gauges to move such that you can see the entirety of your nav and your gauges behind the bar. So that right there is the winner, being able to do that so you can see everything clearly and have everything right in your eye line where it should be. So that's basically it for this. We got a lot of cool stuff on here. The foot controls from Thrashin, the stereo from Rockford, the Olin suspension, the Kraus bar and riser setup. A few other details, we've got levers from One Finger on here. We've got Arlen Ness mirrors, ODI Hart grips. Basically everything you could want from an ergonomics and performance perspective in that regard. So this is a rad bike, and we're gonna move on and do some more of these. So we'll see you next time.